But I think with Licorice, we definitely did have that honeymoon phase where it was like new player, like we're all getting to know each other. He seems like a really cool guy. I mean, he is a really cool guy. But I think inside the game, he does offer a lot of variety, and I think he also offers a lot of like creativity and I mean, he just always has ideas on how he wants to play the game.
Hmm.
So like if it's behind, it can be unconventional to get you back in the game. And then if he's ahead, he's just consistent about what he wants. And I think that's really valuable.
This is Azento from Esports Heaven, and I have here with me Chime from Golden Guardians. Unfortunately, at a loss against Cloud9, but I want to get kind of your take about that game in particular, particularly the draft, because we saw that Thresh was left unbanned, in fact, and went over into the second portion of the ban phase, and you guys didn't even pick it up. So I just want to get maybe your entire process on that. Was that like kind of your decision as far as like a support goes, or like what was just kind of going on with the draft, I guess?
I think well, we were talking about how like we had Ziggs, and so we didn't want to play Ziggs Thresh as a lane, and
Mm,
we were just expecting like a melee support matchup trade, and that Thresh for their comp would be pretty poor.
mm.
And so I think we were just talking and saying that like if they do take Thresh, they really have to snowball early and do a lot, or else their team fighting will be really weak and it'll be really hard for Varus to live. And so I think that was our game plan going in, and so I picked a matchup that I'm fine with. Like it'll be like a rough lane, but that's whatever. And then like we'll be really good in team fights. But I think just they all the plays that they did make early ended up panning out. And then I think the game just kind of got pretty tough early on. We had to be really creative, and uh, we tried, but we weren't as creative as we could have been.
So now let me ask you about the top dive
Yeah.
because everyone's going to be talking about that. Like what was going on in the comms as like everyone was trying to dive fudge and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, we knew Thresh could cover that, and I think we just thought we could take it. And so we tried, and I don't think anyone misexecuted. I didn't actually watch the
Yeah.
dive, but I think it was just like they got kind of stat checked and thought they win, and they didn't, and sometimes that happens.
Hmm.
So yeah,
So it happens to the best of us, I guess. They
yeah,
called you on your bluff, but you guys also ended up trying to call Cloud9 on their bluff with the Scuttle Crab, as far as you guys trying to match that, and in fact pushing them off the Scuttle Crab at around 315. So was that kind of pre-planned, or like how did you guys, I guess, come about that idea?
I mean, I think it was a bit not so pre-planned. I think we were just talking about it is going to be difficult to get Ethan or Diana Crab this game, just because they had multiple pushing lanes. And then we just talked about how can we sneak one in, and we saw that like Lucian had shifted topside, and that their bot lane was trying to sneak Crab, and so we're like, oh, this is like not legal. Like we mid can collapse, bot can collapse. Let's just kill these guys. And yeah, we managed to get him off the Crab and get Diana Crab, so we made it that far.
So I want to talk about the general idea of your team, I guess, and the resurgence that we're seeing. Even though you guys, lost the last game, you guys are still looking quite good as far as what was in the past. And we can all point to maybe the change in top lane with Licorice versus Solo, but then most people end up thinking that, well, it's just two veteran voices, and we all assume from the outside that they're both leaders, they're both vocal, etc. But maybe what has changed in that regard between those two different top laners, and what has changed in general as far as how you guys have progressed as a team and kind of rectified your team cohesion?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think there's anything. I think we were still improving a lot with solo, so I didn't think like we were looking for the change or like anything in regards to like we found Licorice and we're like, oh, like this changes so much kind of thing. I
Mm-hmm.
think they both have different play styles and they're both really good players. But I think with Licorice, we definitely did have that honeymoon phase where it was like new player, like we're all getting to know each other. He seems like a really cool guy. I mean, he is a really cool guy. But I think inside the game he does offer a lot of variety, and I think he also offers a lot of like creativity and I mean he just always has ideas on how he wants to play the game.
Mm-hmm.
So like if it's behind, it can be unconventional to get you back in the game, and then if he's ahead, he's just consistent about what he wants. And I think that's really valuable.
Yeah. So finally, I want to get your thoughts on substitutions within the LCS because you're one of the newer players within the LCS at least, and we don't get often the perspective of how maybe a newer player views substitutions. Usually we get the perspective of a veteran. So from your perspective, I guess, how are you looking at all these substitutions as like a newer player in the LCS in regards of maybe you possibly getting replaced or maybe you moving to a different team with different management and whatnot? Just maybe let me get your thoughts in general about the entire situation of the crazy roster moves that have been going on recently.
Um, I mean, the main one you'd be thinking of is probably the CLG is like the first thing that comes to mind, at least for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I genuinely, I think I just it looks like a really tough situation to be in for all the players. And I feel bad because I think individually across the board, from my perspective, they're really good players, and I think it's a pretty tough situation to be in. And so, I mean, I don't, I feel like any roster swaps at this point is just going to be throwing different people in and out of a fire. Um, but in terms of the other roster swaps, I mean, the only notable one I can think of that's really recent is us. I mean, obviously there was like the Dardoch situation, but that was less of a roster swap. So I mean, I think for us it worked out, and for FlyQuest it worked out. So I mean, I'm happy with both of us.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't really have too many other roster swaps that are coming to mind.
Yeah. So as far as the season is progressing, you guys are still trying to fight for a playoff spot or just kind of securing yourselves as playoffs gets rolling around. But I want to get your take on exactly maybe the team that you think poses the biggest challenge for you guys.
Um, I mean, I think from our perspective, it's FlyQuest and us kind of racing for that
Mm-hmm.
eighth place spot. But obviously CLG could get some more games in, or fingers crossed, Immortals loses a few. But I think from our perspective, it's really just like we're racing FlyQuest, but in like I'm trying to take it one game at a time and just think, okay, like we're not playing FlyQuest, we're playing this team, right? And we're just trying to
Mm-hmm.
get as many wins as we can because I still think like we don't want to just, or at least for me, I don't want to just like make playoffs. I want to actually have a good run. So like just learning from playing the good teams is really valuable. And so I think like just playing all like the top teams and getting good games versus them is important. And I think that's what we should do for the rest of the season.
All right. Well, I hope you guys do that. In fact, pick up next week, pick up a couple games and whatnot, secure playoffs for sure. So I'll be looking out for the rest of your guys' games. Good luck with the rest of the season. And this has been Azento from Esports Heaven and Chime from Golden Guardians. Thank you very much for your time.
Awesome. Thank you.